Ruth, hey, congratulations for A Banquet.
Thank you. It's really nice speaking to people saying nice things about the film all day. I could do this all the time.
You know,
Thank you.
it's always a great feeling that people watch the film, and that's a great start for everything.
It is if they like it. That's the thing, because it's just such a different experience to making shorts, because people don't really watch short films. Not really. Of course, there's an audience for it, and but most of an audience that go to see it at the cinema are your friends and your family who have to like it. So the fact that this film's coming out to like a wider audience is both really thrilling and really frightening as well, to be honest. It's very exposing.
I mean, you called it thrilling, you called it frightening, but I was hard pressed to figure out what genre this actually fit into, because and it's like part horror, part psychological. I mean, how would you describe this?
Well, I get a row from producers when I describe it as being a family drama, because I think that's what at heart, I think that's what it is. I think it's a dramatic story about a family going through an incredibly traumatic experience. But I'm conscious it's not a horror, because I think there's going to be horror fans that it's not going to satisfy. I think there are moments of body horror, there are moments of there are more frightening, jumpy moments, very few, but there are some. Overall, there is this permeating sense of dread, and that's what I knew I wanted to achieve with it. So for me, it does that job. But I get that it's not it doesn't kind of satisfy maybe every horror fan's desires. I know that. So I think it's a psychological horror. I think it is. I think like that's kind of the kind of horror I like. It's the kind of films I navigate towards. But it's also, I think, a story about a very recognizable family as well.
Well, most excellent, of course. Now, what initially drew you to this project and making this your, feature film directorial debut?
Well, so it was also unexpected. I had a general meeting with a producer called Leonora Darby for Tea Shop Productions, and really we were just having a casual conversation about what we were working on. Because I'm typically write the work I direct. But she spoke to me about A Banquet, which was a film they had on their slate, and she pitched it as, a film that kind of, comprised elements of Hereditary, Rosemary's Baby, Take Shelter, and I love those movies. So I was like, I want to read this. So I read it and very quickly, wanted to be on board, and met with Justin, the writer. We got on really well, and there's so much about the script itself that spoke to me. Not least the themes, but like there was also just scenes within it that when you're reading a script, and if you read a lot of scripts, there's just moments where you go, I would love to shoot that scene. And for me, the scene in this film was the pee scene, that very tense dinner scene. I was like, I could shoot the shit out of that. I know how I'd do that. And so that was kind of the holy grail of the piece, everything, I could see everything leading up to. So yeah, that's kind of how I came to do it, but it wasn't expected. I didn't expect this to be my first feature, and the process of coming on board, going through a fairly brief development process and getting financing was incredibly fast. It really still feels like the whole process has been very, very fast.
I am amazed with your cinematography in this film, especially through the food scenes, because every time you brought up a food scene, like I feel less hungry. Usually I see food scenes, I want to eat, but I don't know. I went in the opposite direction. in your film.
That's good. I remember when the editor got the footage through, and particularly the footage around one of the later moments in the film where there's a lot of mushy food, let's say, he was like, I literally couldn't eat lunch that day. And I was like, well, that's a great accolade. That really is, if it put you off your lunch. So food was a big part of the pitch for it as well, and I think, food within it is a source of horror for Betsey. So it was very easy to think of it as the enemy. That was, you know, kind of, and also just loaded with pressure as well, because, you know, Holly's putting so much effort into this beatific food that's very, you know, very excessive in a sense for family dinner, that, you know, it just really loads the idea of consumption and nourishment, and, you know, what Holly wants and what Betsey doesn't want. So yeah, it was, I mean, the realization though of the food itself is all kudos to Sophia Stocco, the designer, who elevated a very, very small budget to a kind of masterful place with the food that she prepared.
Now, stylistically, did the experience from doing all those short films transfer over into a feature film like this for yourself?
Most definitely. I felt very primed for this. I think, you know, it's certainly tradition in the UK that, you know, you build a body of work, and, you know, there's, because of the kind of invisible ladder you climb, there's certain boxes needing ticked before you move towards that feature experience. And my work has all been made with David Little, who's the cinematographer on A Banquet. So we, over a decade, have developed a very sophisticated shorthand for how we like to work together, the images we like, and we just know each other's tastes exceptionally well. And obviously we're very close as well. So this was less daunting for me because I could do this with him, and because I knew we had control over the visuals. I knew that, you know, we're used to making films with no money and elevating, you know, the production values through the visuals. But I also brought with me crew that have become a huge part of my core team. So, you know, it was, yeah, it felt daunting in the right ways, but like I definitely felt ready for it. And I think, you know, this is the first set I've been on where, I mean, I joke about it, but I feel like halfway through I kind of looked around and went, I think I know what I'm doing. I think I might be all right at this, you know? So it was a really pleasurable experience.
Now, when it comes to directing Sienna, because she's such a good dramatic actress, how did you want to direct her, or does she direct herself?
It was, you know, Sienna was very unique in comparison to how Ruby, Jess and Lindsay worked on set, and Kane, for example. With Sienna, there was a lot of conversation about the scenes, which I like talking about, you know, the material and I guess the subtext and what else is going on. So there was real collaboration there. It was, I wouldn't say that it was improvised, but we definitely, for me, the material was always very flexible. So if we did a line reading prior to, you know, blocking it and it didn't sound right, yeah, we would change it up. And Sienna often came with suggestions, which was wonderful. I mean, for anybody to invest that much and to want to give of themselves that much is just really humbling, I think. So it was a very special collaboration. And I felt she trusted me, and I felt that she would go to extremes for me. And that I understood that when I met her. And that's one of the reasons I cast her, because I really like people that, yeah, will push their limits and, you know, maybe go to places they haven't before. And I think Sienna does in this film.
Most excellent. And before I let you go, as you mentioned before, you directed Sienna, but you said you've approached young actresses a little bit different, because obviously, you know, they're not as experienced as Sienna. So how did you want to draw them to get them emotionally invested into a film?
Well, I think, you know, it's very different for each Ruby and Jess. They are different performers, and not least because Jess actually isn't a trained actress. So there's something very raw about everything she does, and she just lives it. I wouldn't say that she's practicing method acting. I don't think that's what she would say she does, but there's something very authentic about how she plays it. So I'm not sure that, you know, she doesn't seem I encouraged character development, and we talked about music that Betsey might like, and we talked about how her thought processes might work. But for Jess, she just had a very pure way about bringing Betsey to set that it worked for her and it worked for me. I think it would have been really worrying had I not liked what she'd done, because, you know, you would have had to have worked out a way, I guess, to shape that. So it was just wonderful that, like, from the get-go, Betsey was there and she was in complete control of what Betsey needed to do. and also again very generous with her body and her physicality and kind of really really pushing herself to extremes. Whereas Ruby was a very cerebral actress and very very quiet, and I think had a lot of confidence for a young actor, like to do things as quietly as she did them and play Isabel. I think that her performance of Isabel is incredibly elegant. So yeah, they're all so different. And then, you know, June as Lindsay was just, I think, to be honest, we were all just kind of in awe of her most of the time. Whatever she did was magic. That monologue she delivers sort of halfway through is, you know, I'll never tire of watching the takes of that or the final cut of that. She is such a master.
That is terrific to hear. Well, Ruth, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I know you're going to have an enjoyment for the rest of your day, it sounds like. So thank you very much, and hopefully...
Thank you for watching.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Bye now.
See you later.